You see a girl you really want to talk to. She walks past you. Your chest feels tight. Your brain starts racing. You tell yourself you will go after her in a second, but you keep waiting and she is already gone. Then you replay that moment in your head for the rest of the day and feel bad about it. You keep doing this over and over. Do you freeze up when you try to approach someone you like? Do you keep waiting for the perfect line and then regret it when you say nothing? Do you feel tired of watching chances walk away from you again and again? I used to deal with this every time I left the house. It felt normal for me to avoid eye contact and pretend I did not care. That changed when I started doing something much simpler and more direct. In this story, I am going to walk you through what I did step by step so you can see exactly how it works. If you listen all the way through, you will understand the actions that finally fixed this for me. So this was my last day in Los Angeles. I woke up and the first thing I saw was the light coming in through the blinds and that weird mix of palm trees and city outside. It felt unfair that I had to go back home because the place just fit me. The weather, the people walking around, the energy. It felt easy to talk to people there. In my head, I even told myself that if I ever left Texas for good, this would be the place. I had already decided that I did not want to waste this day. I checked my phone and there was a message from my friend Dave asking when I was heading out. We had been talking the night before about doing one more day where we went out, met girls, and filmed the whole thing. I felt tired, but I also felt this push. It was my last chance to get as many reps in as I could before I left. We met up near the beach. The air felt fresh and there were people everywhere. Couples, joggers, kids on scooters, tourists with cameras. Dave was already in a good mood, joking around and holding the camera. I could tell he was ready to go. I still had that small knot in my stomach, the same one I always had before approaching. But at this point, it felt familiar and manageable. Before we started, I reminded myself of one thing I had been working on. I called it being simple and direct. No overthinking, no fancy line, just walking up, saying who I am, and saying why I am there. It sounded easy when I said it in my head, but actually doing it with a real person in front of me was still a different story. The first girl I saw that day was walking near the pier. She had a backpack on and was kind of in a hurry, but not too much. Old me would have watched her walk past. Instead, I told Dave I was going in. I slowed my steps on purpose. I paid attention to my breathing. I forced myself to move slower than my nerves wanted me to move. I stepped in front of her path just enough to get her attention without blocking her. I kept my hands relaxed. I told her I had noticed her, that I found her attractive, and that I wanted to talk to her. I did not dress it up as anything else. I did not pretend I needed directions. I just said it in a calm way. She stopped. She smiled a little and shifted the weight of her bag. She told me she was on her way to a peer learning class for programming. I told her I used to work with database stuff, the boring kind that sits behind websites. We stayed on that topic for a minute. I did not try to be funny. I just asked a couple of basic questions about what she was studying and answered a few she asked me. After a short back and forth, I told her I needed to go meet a friend, but that I wanted to see her again. I asked if she wanted to hang out sometime and if she was cool with exchanging numbers. She paused, gave me a safe answer that sounded unsure, but still took out her phone. We swapped numbers and she hurried off to her class. When I walked back to Dave, I felt that wave of relief that hits after any approach. Not because I knew how it would go later, but because I had actually done it. We watched the clip on his camera and I could see all the small things. My shoulders were relaxed, my pace was slow. My voice did not shake like it used to. The whole thing did not look exciting. It just looked normal. That was the point for me. I had spent years thinking I needed to be clever or impressive. I always tried to think of the perfect opening line, and that made me freeze. When I stripped it down to just go over, be honest, ask to see her again, suddenly it felt simple enough that my body could follow it. What helped me get here was a challenge I had done with myself months before. I set up a 30-day period where I forced myself to do at least one uncomfortable social action every single day. Some days it was talking to a stranger. Some days it was raising my hand in a group. Some days it was filming outside in public. It was not smooth. A lot of days I wanted to quit. But by the end of those 30 days, approaching did not feel like some huge special event. It just felt like something I did. Back in Los Angeles, that work was finally paying off. I was talking to girls in front of a camera, in busy places, on my final day in a city I didn't even live in. A few years before, I would not even speak up during group projects in class. Now I was standing on a boardwalk stopping strangers. After that first approach, we decided to take a break and grab food. There was a busy breakfast spot nearby that everyone kept talking about, so we went there. The line was long, but the smell of food made the wait pass faster. When it was my turn, I ordered 2 breakfast sandwiches. One with bacon, egg and cheese, and another with sausage, egg and cheese. Dave looked at my tray and shook his head. We found a small table, sat down, and I took a bite of the first sandwich. The bread was crunchy and the egg was still warm. I took another bite from the second one and had to admit to myself that I had ordered too much. It still tasted good though, and I finished almost all of it, even if I felt heavy after. While we ate, we started talking about different ways we approach. I told him that being simple and direct felt the cleanest to me, but we both knew it could be scary for someone just starting out. So we planned to show another style on camera that day, a softer way to start that still led to the same place. We went back out into the street. I decided to use what I call a sneaky direct approach. Instead of walking up and immediately saying I found her attractive, I would start with a normal question, something that made sense in that area, like asking where a certain place was. Then, if the vibe felt right, I would be honest about why I had come over. The next girl I saw was sitting on a low wall near a shopping center. She had her phone out, but she was not fully locked into it. I walked up and asked her for directions to a spot I pretended I couldn't find. She looked up, thought for a second, and tried to help, but she clearly was not sure. While she did that, I paid attention to her body language. She seemed relaxed and not bothered that I had interrupted her. Instead of standing above her, I sat down next to her, leaving a small space. Sitting down changed the whole energy. I did not feel like I was towering over her or waiting for her to finish so I could pounce with some line. After a moment, I told her that I had also come over because I thought she was cute and wanted to say hi. I said it calmly, without lowering my voice or acting shy about it. She laughed in a friendly way and told me her name. We traded a few basic details about where we were from and what we were doing in the area. I told her I had to leave soon to meet my friend, but asked if she wanted to hang out some other time. She said yes without much hesitation, and we exchanged numbers. When I stood up and walked back toward the camera, I could feel how different that style was. Starting with a neutral question gave my brain a chance to settle. It was almost like a warm-up inside the conversation. If the girl had looked annoyed or closed off, I could have kept it as just a quick question and walked away. But once I knew she was open, flipping into honesty felt smooth. Dave pointed out something important when we watched that clip. The moment I sat down next to her was where the interaction changed. When you stand above someone who is seated, it feels uneven. They have to crane their neck up, you look tense and rushed. Sitting down put us on the same level and made me look more grounded on camera too. Of course, not all of them went that smooth. A bit later, I tried the same approach with another girl on a bench. I asked for directions, she looked up for half a second, answered in one word, and went right back to her phone. I did not push it. I thanked her and walked away. Old me would have taken that personally all day. Now it was just another representative. No number, no problem. We moved on. At one point in the afternoon, we went to lift at a nearby gym. I wanted to get a quick workout in and also grab a few extra clips of us training. After we finished, we were both breathing hard and joking about gains. The pump always made me feel more confident walking back out into the street. My posture was better, my energy was higher. It made the next approaches easier. Later, when we got back in the car to drive to a new spot, we started talking about my content in general. I had this idea of changing the name and style of my channel so I could reach more people who felt the way I used to feel. Guys who were quiet and nervous and did not know where to start. I did not have the details figured out yet, but the idea of reaching them made me want to push myself even more. For the next part of the day, I wanted to do something harder. I decided to use cheesy pickup lines on purpose, not because they are some secret trick, but because they force you to drop your ego. You know the line is silly. You know there is a good chance the girl does not take it seriously. When you do it anyway, you train yourself to handle that feeling. We walked through an outdoor shopping area and I saw a girl in workout clothes walking toward us. I told Dave this would be the one. My heart started beating faster again. I stepped in front of her path with enough space to not scare her. I delivered the corniest line I had prepared, something about imagining us together, and I said it with a straight face. She looked surprised for a second and then laughed. Not in a mean way, more in a, "this is ridiculous." I did not try to stay in that cheesy zone. I followed it up by telling her that I genuinely thought she looked good and that I had noticed the fitness brand she was wearing since I liked the same kind of clothes. That detail suddenly gave us something real to talk about. She told me she had a class starting soon and checked the time on her phone. I could tell she actually needed to go, but she did not seem in a rush to get away from me. Before she left, I asked if she wanted to hang out sometime. She said yes, and we exchanged contact info right there on the sidewalk while people walked around us. Walking back to Dave, I honestly felt surprised. I had gone in expecting a playful rejection. Instead, the cheesy line opened the door, and the real connection point came right after when I mentioned something we had in common. Watching the video later, I could see that once I pointed out that shared interest, her shoulders relaxed more and her smile looked more natural. We talked about that for a while, how noticing small details about someone, like something they are wearing or doing, helps you relate to them quickly. You do not have to force jokes. You do not have to become a different person. You can just point out something real that you understand or share, and it makes the whole interaction feel easier. Later in the day, it was Dave's turn to do a cheesy approach. We saw another girl walking by and he went in. He started with a question about her dad and whether he had been a boxer. It sounded intense and funny at the same time. She stopped, confused at first, then amused. They started talking, and because she was Filipino, the conversation turned almost right away toward a famous boxer from there. From where I stood, I could hear bits and pieces of them mentioning that name and laughing, and I remember just wondering how they got to that topic so fast. It was such a random direction for a conversation that started on a sidewalk between two strangers. For a moment, it looked like it might actually go somewhere. Then, after a short exchange, she politely shut it down. She thanked him and made it clear she was not interested in giving out her number. The way she said it was very calm and polite, which somehow made it feel even more final. Dave walked back to me with a grin, shaking his head. We both started laughing at how odd the whole interaction had been. When we watched that clip later, it was still one of the funniest moments from the whole day. The way he opened, the sudden jump into talking about boxing, the polite rejection at the end. It showed something important to me, though. Even when things went nowhere, it was still just a moment. People kept walking. The day kept going. Nobody cared except us. We kept doing more approaches as the sun started to go down. Some girls said they had boyfriends right away. Some smiled but clearly were not interested. A few were in a hurry and barely slowed down at all. A couple stopped, talked for a bit, and gave their contact. There was no perfect pattern. There was only action and outcome. In between approaches, random people kept looking at the camera. Some of them stared. Some laughed. A few walked by on purpose to get in the background. Honestly, that used to scare me as much as talking to the girls. I always assumed everyone was judging me. After doing this enough times, that feeling faded. Now it just felt normal. People always have opinions. I did not need to control that. At one point, an older couple walked past us while we were setting up for another clip. They looked at the camera, looked at me, and smiled. I smiled back and went right back to what I was doing. That moment reminded me that not everyone is waiting to see you fail. A lot of people are just curious. Some are even supportive, in their own quiet way. As it got closer to evening, the sky over the ocean looked softer and the air cooled down. My feet were tired from walking around all day. My throat felt dry from talking to so many people. My phone had a few new numbers in it and a lot of notifications from texts and social media. It had been a full day. We sat on a low wall, looking at the water for a while with the camera off. I thought back to the version of me who would have stood in a corner at a party and avoided eye contact with everyone. The version who would notice a girl he liked and then spend 10 minutes pretending to text so he did not have to face the fear of talking to her. Now, in one day, I had walked up to multiple girls in busy places, with a camera pointed at me, knowing that thousands of people could eventually watch how it went. I still felt nervous before each approach. I still overthought some of them. I still got rejected more than once. But the fear did not control me in the same way. What changed was not some big personality shift. I did not wake up one day as a different person. What changed were small actions I kept repeating. Walking up anyway when my heart sped up. Saying something simple and honest instead of waiting for a perfect line. Sitting down when someone was seated so they did not have to look up at me. Noticing details and using them to relate. Accepting that cheesy lines would sometimes crash and burn and being okay with that. On the ride back, the city lights started to come on. Traffic moved slowly. I scrolled through some of the clips we had shot that day. Some made me feel proud. Some made me cringe. A few were just boring. Together, they told a clear story. Not of someone who never failed, but of someone who finally stopped letting the fear of failure keep him quiet. That night, before packing my bag for the flight home, I checked my messages. A couple of the girls had already replied. One was busy that week but kept the conversation going. Another one seemed excited to meet up if I ever came back to the city. Nothing crazy, nothing out of a movie. Just real, normal human responses. I put my phone down and sat on the edge of the bed for a minute. My body felt heavy from walking, training, and talking all day. My mind felt calm. I did not feel stuck in what-ifs or replaying missed chances. I knew that if I had stayed in my old habits, this entire day would have looked different. There would have been no footage, no new numbers, no memories from those random conversations. Instead, my last day in Los Angeles was a string of small actions stacked together. Some smooth, some awkward, some funny, some forgettable. All of them real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like the kind of guy who actually walks up and says something when he wants to, instead of standing there watching his chances pass by.